Chosen one, there is a conversation happening right now that you were never meant to hear. A couple are having an intense conversation about your finances, and something they can't figure out is how you continue to thrive despite their attempts to influence your future. This entire dynamic began in a relationship you once trusted, but as they scramble to solve the mystery of your resilience, it is clear you have already grown far beyond the version of yourself they thought they could control. There was a time when someone in your life was working very hard to keep things smooth. You remember the feeling of it, the even tone, the careful composure, the way this person never quite pushed far enough to cross a line you would have clearly named as a line, which meant you could never quite justify the unease you felt either. For a while you may have even appreciated their apparent steadiness. You may have told yourself this was someone who genuinely valued the relationship enough not to rock it, but something always sat slightly off, not dramatically, and not in a way you could put into words and defend if challenged. It was more like the faint awareness that what you were receiving did not fully match what was being performed, like warmth that had a ceiling built into it, like generosity that came with invisible fine print you had not read yet. You were not imagining that feeling. You were perceiving something real. What you were sensing was the performance itself, the deliberate, sustained maintenance of an image. The image being maintained was of someone patient, someone who sacrifices without complaint, someone who shows up even when it is hard and never asks for anything in return. That image was being polished constantly, because a person who presents as a selfless giver while operating as a quiet collector is far more dangerous than someone who simply demands openly. Open demands can be evaluated and answered. Quiet collection cannot even be identified until the bill arrives. And underneath all of that careful composure, your growth was being watched. Your choices were being catalogued. Every step your life took toward financial alignment, every door that opened for you, every gap that widened between where you were heading and where this person was standing, all of it was being quietly filed away. Every moment of restraint on their part, every time they swallowed what they genuinely wanted to say, went into a private ledger that you did not know existed. That ledger had your name on it, and the balance it recorded was one they had already decided you owed them. The peace between you was never peace. It was patience, specifically the patience of someone waiting for the right moment to collect. That moment arrived when their money got tight, when whatever financial structure they had been quietly counting on started to show cracks. The composure slipped, the image frayed, and what emerged from underneath it was not grief or confusion, it was an invoice. The invoice did not arrive to your face, because direct confrontation is not how this person operates. Instead, a call was made and a meeting was arranged. Someone carrying the professional authority of an official role, a lawyer, an accountant, someone with institutional access and procedural knowledge, was brought into the picture. And in that meeting, your name was positioned as the obstacle standing between them and what they want from your financial life. Here is what you need to understand about how that meeting has actually been going. These two did not walk in carrying a strong case. They walked in carrying a well-rehearsed account of being wronged, emotionally charged, carefully sequenced, and designed to sound like evidence without actually constituting evidence. They were banking on the idea that desperation presented with enough conviction might be mistaken for legitimate grievance by someone with the authority to act on it. The professional they brought this account to has heard versions of it before. That professional started asking the kind of specific, documented questions that well-rehearsed emotional accounts tend to collapse under. The cracks started showing almost immediately after the questions began. That is the intensity you are sensing from their direction right now. It is not the confidence of a plan succeeding. It is the franticness of an account that is starting to fall apart under scrutiny, and two people who are running out of ways to patch it before the meeting ends. Why now? Why this urgency? Why are two people, one of whom spent considerable time carefully not rocking any boats, suddenly formalized, mobilized, and sitting across from an official professional. Something is coming to you, something real, material, and significant enough that the people who have been watching from a comfortable distance have decided they can no longer afford to watch passively. This is not a vague, hoping and praying kind of incoming energy. This is a specific financial blessing, an inheritance, a legal settlement, a financial arrangement that was always structured to land in your hands, an opportunity that carries qualifying terms already built into it. It exists, it has your name attached to it, and it has moved close enough that the people who wanted to intercept it have finally run out of time to wait. Feel the weight of that reality, the urgency in their conversation, the desperation underneath the professional framing of the meeting they arranged, the lengths they have gone to in organizing all of this. None of that is a threat to you. All of it is evidence. Evidence that what is approaching you is real and confirmed. Evidence that it is close. Evidence that its arrival cannot be dismissed or talked away by anyone paying attention to how the situation is actually unfolding. Most people, when they discover that someone is actively scheming against their blessing, feel the anxiety spike immediately. The instinct to defend, protect, and get ahead of the damage kicks in hard. That instinct is completely understandable, and it is also exactly what the opposition is counting on. A chosen one who is anxious and second-guessing their own worthiness is far easier to destabilize than one who is settled and knows clearly what belongs to them. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. Here is what nobody tends to tell you about the season. When a financial blessing gets close enough to become real, it becomes magnetic, not just for what was always meant for you, but for everyone in your orbit who has quietly decided somewhere along the way that your life is connected to their personal rescue plan. Your forward movement creates a gravitational pull on the people around you, and the ones who were never truly in your corner for who you are, only for what they believed you would eventually have, begin to move when the moment feels close enough. Their movement is itself a revelation. Their scheming is its own kind of exposure. Every hidden agenda that was maintained in the background surfaces now, because proximity to a real financial shift makes people unable to sustain the performance that concealed their true intentions. That exposure is a gift to you, chosen one, an uncomfortable and unwelcome one, but a gift nonetheless. You do not want to carry concealed intentions into the next chapter of your life. You do not want the people who were only ever present for the value of what you were building to still have access when that building is complete. The desperation of those attempting to intercept your blessing is doing the separating work that your own grace and patience might have been too generous to do on your own. Every significant chapter of growth has an antagonist, and here is yours. Do not picture someone who announces themselves through open confrontation or obvious aggression. That would be a far simpler kind of opposition, the kind you see arriving, named clearly, and addressed directly. What you are dealing with is considerably more sophisticated than that. This person presents as quiet, as passive even, as someone who has been through difficulty and is simply trying to stabilize their life. Arguments are avoided on the surface. Scenes are not made in public. When things get hard, this person gets smaller, pulling back, fading into the background, letting others carry the confrontation while positioning themselves as uninvolved. For a long time, you likely interpreted that behavior as harmlessness, as someone who simply lacked the appetite for conflict. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. You've also noticed something else. A lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have gone quiet. Videos removed, voices pushed off the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. And when you join, you're not just supporting your favorite channels, you're also fueling your own rise. It's a 360 win. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the dark elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your destiny engine for $7 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. A person who refuses to fight openly is fully capable of engineering a sustained campaign against you in private. The manipulation deployed here is not loud. It is the precisely placed word to the precisely right ear at the precisely right moment. It is the carefully worded expression of concern. It is the carefully constructed account of who you are, delivered to the one person whose belief in it matters most to the plan being executed. For a long time, this person has been building a case, not officially, not in any formal setting, but in the court of perception, with the specific individuals whose opinion of you carries the most weight in the process they are trying to influence. The passive exterior is not simply a personality trait. It is a survival mechanism that over time became a deliberate strategy. This person has spent so long shrinking in the face of open conflict, never asserting directly, always positioning as the overlooked and underserved party, that the current moves against your finances have been completely moralized in their own mind as self-defense. Going to a professional, building a formal case, attempting to redirect what belongs to you, none of that registers internally as aggression toward you. It registers as justice, as finally doing what needed to be done after years of being passed over. That is the most dangerous kind of opposition you will ever face, the kind that is operating with a completely clean conscience. Someone who schemes while genuinely convinced of their own righteousness, does not waver, does not second-guess themselves, and does not pull back easily. Their commitment to the plan is the commitment of someone who believes they are correcting a wrong, not someone who knows they are creating one. Before this professional meeting, before this formal strategy, there were other attempts, quieter ones, private efforts aimed at changing your trajectory before it could fully materialize into the blessing that is now so close to arriving. Those attempts were sent through channels meant to shift your energy, your standing, or your position before any official process could confirm what has always belonged to you. None of those attempts worked. Whatever was sent found nothing to attach to. You cannot successfully direct darkness toward someone who is genuinely lit from within, because there is no corresponding shadow for it to grip. Whatever was sent slid away and returned to its origin, typically in a worse condition than when it left. That is exactly why the formalized professional document-based route is now being pursued. It was not the first choice. It became the only remaining option after everything else had already been exhausted. Two people are now sitting in a formal meeting, watching their last viable plan develop the same structural cracks as every approach that came before it, and neither of them is fully able to explain why nothing is landing the way they expected it to. We will come back to that image, and when we do, it will look entirely different than it does right now. Let us get precise about what this opposition actually believes, and why, because this is the fuel underneath the entire effort. It is the engine that powered the formal meeting, the professional consultation, the financial resources spent, and the sustained energy of the whole construction. The core belief driving this is entitlement, not love, not even honest anger at a genuine wrong. Something colder and more calculated than either of those, the bone-deep conviction that you owe them something. Specifically, the belief that the financial blessing moving toward you belongs in full or in part to them, that their struggle entitles them to share in your receiving, that the gap between your financial trajectory and theirs is a wrong that requires correction, and that correcting it means redirecting what is yours toward what they need. The foundation of that belief was built in your shared history. At some point, this person occupied a position of authority or caretaking responsibility in relation to your life. Perhaps they provided material support. Perhaps they were present through a formative period when that presence was needed. Perhaps they took on the role of the responsible one, the person who picked up what others let fall, who showed up when others did not. In their current memory, that history has been elevated considerably. It has been made sacred. Every actual sacrifice they made, and some they only half remember making, has been assigned a value and entered into a private account with your name attached to the debt column. But what that accounting deliberately omits is everything on your side. The years you spent managing moods, expectations, and the constant low-level pressure of someone whose identity was organized around being owed. The work of establishing boundaries, slowly, at genuine personal cost, because the relationship consumed far more than it ever returned to you. The internal work of dismantling and rebuilding the version of yourself that the dynamic had required you to suppress, because remaining small in the ways that relationship needed had been making you unwell in ways you are only now fully understanding. You already paid, not in currency, in the kind of cost that never gets written down anywhere, the kind that registers in the body and in the nervous system long after the relationship itself has changed shape. You paid many times over, and in a currency far more valuable than anything they are now claiming you owe. The real outstanding balance in this relationship runs in the opposite direction of what they are presenting to that professional. The sincere acknowledgments of real harm that have never arrived, the apologies that are genuinely outstanding, those belong on their accounting, not yours. Here is the specific financial argument they carried into that professional meeting, and you need to hear it plainly, so that if any version of it reaches you directly, you recognize it without hesitation. The argument is this, that your financial position, the blessing incoming, the stability you have built, the opportunity now at your door, was constructed in some part at their expense, that arrangements were made and resources were distributed in ways that advantaged your trajectory while leaving theirs behind, that the disparity between where you are headed financially and where they currently stand is not the natural result of different choices made freely over time, but evidence of a structural wrong, one that entitles them to a share of what is now arriving for you. They brought that argument to someone who works in documents and official processes, hoping that formalizing it would grant it a legitimacy that the argument itself simply does not possess. It will not hold. But here is what the formalization itself communicates to you. Professional resources are not spent on interceptions that are still far away. People mobilize, strategize, and invest in official processes when the thing they want to intercept is nearly here. The fact that they are spending what little they have on this official strategy right now is its own unmistakable confirmation that your blessing is almost here. The goal is to build a version of events specifically about your character, your choices, your qualifications, and your conduct, and deliver that version to whoever holds decision-making authority over what you are about to receive. The intent is precise, to make you appear to be the wrong recipient, to make you look unstable, undeserving, or compromised in a way that disqualifies you from what your name has been connected to all along. The attacks they have constructed target the exact categories that matter most to the qualifying process. Your emotional and mental stability is one area where they may be raising manufactured questions. Your character and your past decisions are areas where distortion or outright fabrication may be in play. Your relationship to your own life and responsibilities is where they are searching for any detail that suggests you have not met the terms required for this blessing to reach you. They have brought in someone official to deliver this constructed case with an air of credibility. Your life has already answered every accusation they are preparing before the accusation is even formally made. Your growth is real, and it is visible to anyone looking at genuine evidence rather than manufactured narrative. The people who know you authentically cannot be convinced of a fiction about you by someone whose account of events keeps shifting, because those people have witnessed you in actual circumstances over actual time. Your lived record does not match the version being sold in that meeting, and the professional examining both is not failing to notice the discrepancy. Every attempt to root around this reality, every approach through the people close to you, every effort to plant doubt with authority figures, every use of official processes to manufacture a different outcome has kept arriving at the same wall. The wall is your actual record, and your actual record does not move. The opposition walked in believing the paper trail supported their position. What the professional is showing them is that documentation is inherently impartial. The same record they believed would validate their claim also shows the decisions they made freely, the arrangements they agreed to, and the moments where they benefited from the very structures they are now characterizing as unjust. The professional is not passing an emotional account. The professional is examining a record, and the record refuses to say what they came in hoping it would say. When a constructed argument begins dissolving under that kind of impartial scrutiny, desperate people do not regroup and recalibrate with facts. They escalate emotionally. They begin filling the evidentiary gaps with feelings, interpretations, and accounts of events that only they were present for, which means their word is the only support available for those specific claims. Experienced professionals recognize that transition immediately. They see the shift from evidence to embellishment, from documented reality to declaration, and that recognition changes everything about how the meeting proceeds. That shift is happening right now. That is precisely why the conversation about you has grown so intense. Because the plan is cracking, the people running it can feel it cracking, and the professional in front of them is beginning to reflect that awareness back to them in the form of harder and harder questions. Chosen one, this is the center of everything. This is the axis around which this entire situation rotates. What is protecting you is not luck. It is not an accident of circumstance or a random alignment of favorable conditions. It is not something external that descended on you without your active participation. What is protecting you is something that was built slowly, invisibly, over a long stretch of choices you made when nobody was watching and no reward was guaranteed. Every time you chose the harder right over the easier wrong, every boundary you held when releasing it would have bought you temporary quiet. Every season you stayed in your authentic truth when performing a more agreeable version of yourself would have made things more comfortable for everyone around you. All of it contributed. Every time you chose real growth over the familiar comfort of staying exactly where you were, every moment you extended grace to people who never extended it back, and then finally extended that grace to yourself by choosing your own peace over the ongoing performance of a relationship that had long since emptied itself of genuine substance, all of that contributed too. Everything you did in those private, unrewarded moments built something. Call it character if you want a grounded word for it. Call it integrity. Call it the compound return of accumulated right decisions made without an audience. Whatever name you give it, what it has become is a field around your life that manipulation simply cannot enter, because manipulation requires a point of entry. Guilt requires an active guilt complex to activate against. Fear requires an unhealed wound to anchor itself to. Confusion requires someone who does not know who they are. You are none of those things anymore. You have done the genuine work of knowing yourself. And that is exactly why nothing currently being aimed at you is landing with any effect. Now here is where the promise made at the opening of this pays off in full. The size of the opposition reflects the size of the blessing. Here is why that principle operates in both directions simultaneously. The protection around you, this field that nothing can penetrate, this covering they cannot identify or name or find a way around, is proportional to what you are about to be trusted to carry. The universe does not assign comprehensive protection to minor outcomes. When you witness this level of coordinated multi-angle sustained opposition directed specifically at your finances, you are looking at the inverse outline of what is coming to you. The resistance reveals the scale. The protection confirms the scale. What is coming to you is enormous. The opposition senses it. That sensing is what drove the escalation from quiet watching to desperate action. Desperation produces sloppiness, and sloppiness is precisely what causes carefully constructed plans to dissolve under the most basic professional scrutiny, which is exactly what is happening right now. You never had to fight this battle directly. You never had to match energy for energy or counter-argument with argument. You never had to enter any formal process to defend yourself against accusations built on fiction. You never had to perform your worthiness for anyone holding authority over what is yours. The fight was never assigned to you, and the fact that you never picked it up was not a failure of nerve. It was wisdom operating at a level below the ego's instinct to react. While the constructed case against you was being built, and partially dismantled, and rebuilt with adjustments, the actual movement that matters was happening somewhere entirely out of reach of anyone who wanted to interfere with it. The people with genuine authority over your blessing were examining your actual record, not the manufactured account, but the real one that exists independent of anyone's narrative about you. Every wall that appeared in front of the opposition reinforced itself without requiring your involvement. Every attempt to shift how you were perceived by the right people kept colliding with the documented truth of who you actually are and how you have actually lived. You did not secure this outcome by fighting. You secured it by becoming, over a long stretch of time and real personal cost, the person whose name belongs on what is coming. That is not luck, that is alignment, and alignment cannot be argued away, manipulated past, or legally challenged out of existence by people who never had standing to challenge it in the first place. Here is what this turn feels like from the inside, for those who have not been through it before. It does not arrive with fanfare. It is not a cinematic moment where everything clicks simultaneously into place. It feels like a settling, like the quiet exhale of someone who has been holding physical tension in the body for so long that they stopped registering it as tension at all, and who is only now, as it finally releases, recognizing how heavy it actually was. It feels like putting down something you did not consciously know you were still carrying, like fully inhabiting your own size again after a long season of making yourself smaller than you are to survive a space that required it. That quiet that arrives is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is the specific clarity of someone who has finally and completely stopped managing a threat, because the threat has exhausted every move available to it and has nothing left. Your financial blessing is still moving toward you. It is moving without interruption, rerouted around every obstacle placed in its path, the way water finds its natural level, regardless of what temporarily blocks it. It is not diminished. It is not delayed beyond the time required for everything false to collapse under its own unsupported weight. It is more certain now than it has ever been, because every failed attempt to stop it has eliminated whatever residual uncertainty remained about exactly where it is heading. Now here is the full payoff of what was placed at the very beginning of this. The size of the opposition tells you the size of the blessing. At the opening, that principle was meant to stop you from shrinking in the face of what you were sensing around you. Now, at this turn, that principle is your measuring instrument. Look at the full scale of what was assembled against you, the coordination, the resources invested, the professional involvement, the sustained effort across multiple approaches over a significant stretch of time. That is the scale of what was determined to be worth all of that effort to try to stop. Now flip it. That is the scale of your blessing. The blessing has a specific shape. Let us talk about what is actually arriving. Real authority is connected to what is coming, not a ceremonial title, genuine substantive authority, the kind of standing that comes naturally to someone who has prepared themselves to carry it, the kind that does not require performance because it is built on an actual foundation of character and demonstrated reliability. The financial shift arriving for you carries real weight in the world. The position it opens is one the opposition has been desperately reaching for their entire lives and will never access through strategy, scheme, or manufactured entitlement. You are not going to take any of this. You are going to receive it. Those are not the same action, and the distinction matters. Taking requires force applied from a position of lack. Receiving requires readiness built from a position of genuine preparation. The work you did on yourself, the seasons of real growth, the boundaries held at genuine cost, the integrity maintained when compromise would have been the significantly easier path, that was not merely personal development you did for your own sake. It was preparation. You did not know it was preparation at the time. You were simply trying to become someone you could honestly live with, but you were simultaneously becoming someone capable of holding exactly what is now approaching. There are people with genuine authority who are already positioned on the right side of this process. Their voices carry real weight in the spaces where decisions about your blessing are made. They are not enemies. They are not even neutral. They see you clearly, and what they see aligns precisely with what is moving toward you. Their presence in this process is not accidental, and it is not something you arranged or earned through any particular strategic action. The right people have been placed consistently in the right positions. You are only now beginning to see how intentionally that arrangement was built. The financial shift arriving for you is decisive. It is not incremental, not a slow improvement that builds gradually over an extended period. This is a turning point, the kind that appears sudden to anyone who did not witness the years of invisible preparation that made it inevitable. From your own vantage point inside it, it will feel like something finally arriving that matches the person you have already become, not a surprise, an arrival. Here is an invitation worth accepting fully. Ask for what you need. Not tentatively, not with the hedged smallness that was trained into you by years of proximity to people who needed you to stay diminished. Ask specifically, ask boldly, ask in the full size of what you actually want. Ask for clarity in every financial decision that connects to what is incoming. Ask for protection over your resources as they shift into their new configuration. Ask for everyone with legitimate authority over your blessing to see your record with absolute clarity. Ask for every manufactured claim made against you to dissolve before it can be formally delivered to anyone who matters. You have genuine access to this kind of asking. The evidence of that access is the entire account we have walked through together, every attempt that found nothing to grip, every plan that collapsed under its own false weight, every wall that held without you consciously building it. None of that was random. That was active protection operating on your behalf before you even recognized that you needed it. The financial blessing is completing its approach. The people with legitimate authority over what is yours are not confused or misled by the opposition's argument. The record speaks on your behalf without requiring your assistance. What the record demonstrates about you qualifies you completely for everything that is arriving. Release the reflex to over-explain or pre-defend yourself. The case was already made, not by anything you scrambled to produce under pressure, but by the life you actually lived. Your position is strengthening with every passing moment. What was always yours is almost home. Two people are having an intense conversation about your finances, the thing they cannot figure out, the element that keeps the conversation circling without resolution, the factor that causes every plan to arrive at the same immovable wall, is not a missing legal technicality. It is not a document they have not yet located. It is not a loophole they simply have not identified yet. What they cannot figure out is you. They cannot determine how someone they believed they had fully mapped is this impenetrable. They cannot identify why someone they believed they had real financial leverage over has none of the expected pressure points available to them. They cannot explain why every route they have pursued, legal, emotional, social, private, arrives at the same result. They cannot name what is protecting you. They cannot determine why nothing they have tried has produced the outcome they were certain it would produce. You do not owe them that answer. Let the question remain where it is. Let the impossibility of reaching you through any of the channels they have attempted be the lasting impression this entire effort leaves on them. The protection around you is more powerful as a mystery to them than any explanation of it would be, because the answer itself is not complicated. You became someone who cannot be taken down, not by building defensive armor in response to attacks, but through the genuine accumulation of who you chose to become, one real decision at a time, over a long season, in private, without any guarantee of external reward. You built something so fundamentally true and so thoroughly lived that no manufactured version of you can stand credibly next to it. You built something so solid that darkness finds no shadow to enter and manipulation finds no wound to leverage. Your financial blessing is moving toward that person, toward the person you built yourself into becoming. And nothing in that intense conversation, no professional, no legal angle, no constructed account, no offer with a hidden condition embedded in it, can redirect what has been set in motion towards someone operating at the level of genuine alignment with what is arriving. Go receive what belongs to you. Go receive it through the quiet, grounded, completely immovable certainty of someone who knows exactly what is theirs and exactly who they are. The intense conversation about you is getting quieter as the options close. The energy has shifted from active strategy to the dawning recognition that the strategy was never going to work. Two people are arriving without being fully able to articulate why, at the understanding that they were never going to win this, and you are somewhere entirely different, unhurried, unshaken, standing in the full presence of someone who has already secured the outcome, not by fighting for it, but by becoming completely impossible to defeat. That is who you are. That is who you have always been in the process of becoming. And the financial blessing that carries your name, the one that has been moving toward you regardless of every effort made to redirect it, is already on its way home.